And welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. It's time for Opinion Court. Please do get in touch with us, 22422. That's our SMS line at Citizen TV Kenya or at Citizen TV News. If you're online, please use the hashtag Opinion Court so that we can track your conversation. As I mentioned before the break, we're discussing the term of the Transitional Authority, which expires March 4th. That's in about 2.5 weeks. The problem being that they claim that there's so much work left undone, including the disbursement of 143 billion shillings worth of property and other assets that was initially held by county councils, and that they claim governors have refused to take over. Does the TA have a legitimate case in asking for an extension of its term? I'll reintroduce my panel to you. Seated across from me is Mandera Senator Bill Okero. Next to him is Edward Kisiangani, our resident political analyst. And next to me is Igembe South MP Mythica Linturi. Gentlemen, you're all welcome to the program. So with 143 billion, quote-unquote, hanging in the balance, it's not like the houses or whatever are going to disappear, but right now they're not being properly managed, with these assets yet to be redistributed, and with TA saying we still have so much work to do. Does it warrant an extension, Mythica?
I think, thank you very much. And to me, the most important thing to look at here is not how much money or worth of assets are out there, but is look at the legality or the constitutionality of the whole proposal. One, we must accept and admit that the Transitional Authority is a creature of the Constitution by virtue of Section 15 of the 6th schedule of our Constitution and Section 4 of the Intergovernmental the Transition to Government Relations, the Transition to Devolved Governments Act. And when you look at those two particular provisions of the law, you realize that the essence of the formation of this law or the Transitional Authority was to fast-track the transfer of those of the functions or transfer of such assets to the county governments. And when you also further look at what Section 37 of the same Act provides for, is that the section that Section 15 of the 6th schedule says that that work has to be done within 3 years. It is never expected a situation where there will be extension. Section 37 also says of the Transfer to Devolved Governments Act also says that when at the expiry of the 3rd year, then that office shall cease to exist, meaning that then shall cease to exist, and that particular law shall also cease to operate, meaning that now on the 4th of March there will be no law like the the Transition to Devolved Governments Act. There will be no Transitional Authority. But when you look at the Intergovernmental Relations Act of 2012, Section 11 creates the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, and Section 12B of the same Act creates gives the function of the management of those affairs that will not have been concluded by the TA to the Intergovernmental Relations Act. And the one thing you know what I say is that the residual functions that would have been done by the Transitional Authority shall then be taken over by the Transitional Authority.
So there's no case for you to extend.
To me, the matter, even if anybody wanted to put up such a case, to me there is no case. To me, the same thing on doing or seeking an extension won't be unconstitutional.
Bello, is it unconstitutional to seek an extension using constitutional mechanisms such as the Senate passing a new law?
Well, I think there are 2 or 3 things we need to look at. One, the need for TA. Is there a need for TA in principle? I think we need to look at that first.
Is there?
Do we need to extend the law side? Do we need really to have the TA in place?
And I'm asking you, is there a need? Yes,
in my view, there is. The legal aspects, I'll come to it, may be difficult. Although we have proposed, and there's a bill that is before the Senate. But of course, there are issues that have been raised regarding constitutionality of the bill. But we'll come to that. But for me, the most fundamental issue really is not about the law. It's about, do we need that institution? Why do we need it? In my view, we need it because TA, although they have done a good amount of work, really a significant work in terms of midwifing the entire process of devolution, they have had serious challenges. You will recall, for example, the last 2 years, the National Assembly did not give them money. The key work which is remaining today, and one of the most important milestones, by the way, is they completed the last transfer. The most important function was transfer of functions to counties. They did the last transfer of functions a couple of weeks ago when this issue of roads was finalized and classified, and they transferred. So they actually have no function that is remaining to be transferred. The most important aspect of their function which is remaining, their role which is remaining, is this one on assets and liabilities. And this is 3, and they're significant. I don't think we need to underestimate. One is the assets that have been taken over by county governments from the local authorities. This is the one that we're talking about, the 143 billion. And with liabilities, also estimated by them at 65 billion. The second is there's significant amount of assets which run into billions, hundreds of billions, of assets which have been transferred to the county governments courtesy of the functions, the transfer of the functions. When a function was being transferred, the Ministry of Fisheries was transferred to a county government, they took over all the assets, of that ministry in that county. And that happened for many ministries, agriculture, water. So there is billions really in terms of assets that have also gone. Which these 2 are critical. They have not even got to put a figure on it up to now. On the other one, of the 143, it's yet to be audited. They spent 2 years asking for money to undertake this work. Government was not willing to give them money. In fact, they were literally reduced to like a department within the Ministry of Devolution. So to an extent, really, the delay in executing their work was not their fault. It's a lack of
having said that, the work.
So my argument is that we should actually find a way. I know the legal aspects. Our own legal affairs committee of the Senate has come up with a bill, and they think it stands a good chance of, and they've looked at all those aspects. I'm not saying that it may stand the test of constitutionality. That will be looked at once the bill comes to the floor of the House. But I personally think that there is need to extend the time of TA so that they can deal with this critical item.
Would you then address the National Assembly Committee this evening on the implementation of the Constitution rejected the request for the extension of tenure, basically saying that even with those very legitimate asset liability questions that are there, that the Intergovernmental Relations Committee under the Ministry of Devolution can handle it?
Well, that's what the Act says, that once the 3 years elapses, that committee can carry out those functions. But I think what we are looking at is, we have developed a culture in this country of killing institutions every time we start. We've seen the Electoral Commission and many others. I think this institution has developed quite a bit of experience, quite a bit of, they've built a lot of data, they've built a lot of mechanisms for doing that work. So to now simply shut down that completely and then give a new team. That new team has been in office for the last 1 year, nearly almost.
But there's a difference between killing an institution and a constitutional deadline that ends the life of that particular institution.
But there has been many constitutional deadlines that have not been met and that have been extended. National Assembly, how many times have they extended their deadlines for making laws?
So go ahead and add another, right?
I think, in my view, really, it's not about the law. It's about, do we need it? Because if you have a situation where you risk losing hundreds of billions of assets, by the way, one of their other responsibilities, the third one, is they are also required to take an inventory of all the assets and liabilities of the national government after the split. Because after this split of the counties, there will be now 2 levels of government, so they're supposed to do that audit of that inventory of assets and liabilities of national government, of the counties, and the ones of the local authorities. This is about assets. So the reason why some of us in the Senate are really pushing for it is that there was a situation where in that interim period, a lot of assets, we went to one county where nearly, we were told 18 buildings belonging to a former local authority have just been transferred quietly without and that
to private individuals?
Yes.
That quite an allegation, Prof.
Oh, yes.
Prof.
Oh, yes.
I think
in one, we were told.
I think listening to the senator, I think fundamental questions come to the fore. And for me, if the Transitional Authority was a human being and it touched my body, I would feel nothing. I would feel nothing because it is one of the national disasters we have had around
Wow.
us. The reason is this, and if you look at the section on devolution, especially section 4, which outlines the work of the Transitional Authority, including advising on manpower and then assets and liabilities as he puts on, use of resources. It failed fundamentally. For example, if you look at the Constitution and you look at the article, right now the President is already talking about, I hope you come to that, the President has talked about austerity measures and says it's heavy. If you look at the 6th schedule, article section 17, about the provincial administration, we expect the Transitional Authority to advise the national government that it don't allow any duplication of people, serving national government. You have a county, chief. You have a chief in the ward, and you also have a county administration for both sides of the government. It didn't say anything. You know what it did? It started cohabiting with one section of the political class.
Come we stay.
Come we stay without a marriage certificate. And then it stayed in that relationship without the salary authenticating. The relationship is now expiring without children.
Who was it come with staying with?
I think they did a lot of business with the politicians on both sides of the political divide, and they didn't achieve much. So for me, you look at the West End. What is happening is, the senator is saying Parliament didn't give them money. We didn't even hear that noise enough from the Transitional Authority that we are not operating. It's the case of JSC, the Constitution, the CIC, the Constitution Implementation Commission, which we had. And at the end of it, there are certain people who say it has not completed its work. Usually when you hear things like this, it is the Kenyan culture of trying to extend people's earnings. They can continue earning salaries for not doing their work. If Parliament didn't do the work, you must fix that job yourself. But the Constitution says these guys should go away. They failed to do a number of fundamental things. They have not done them. So if it is you in Parliament who did not give it money, you should fix it. And you must fix it to the satisfaction of all Kenyans, not to tell us, let us extend the term.
I think it's important to clarify one thing. I really sympathize with the Transitional Authority. Borrowing from what I have learned from my friend,
because of the problem.
I am sympathizing with them because most of the things that they are doing, and they are under direct supervision from the Senate.
He sympathizes that he caused them a problem.
And no, that's not exactly what I mean. But allow me try to explain, because the information now, the issues that Mheshimiwa Keru is raising are really genuine and of concern. But to me, what is most critical is that the Constitution itself never envisaged a situation whereby that authority would have existed or would have alive beyond 3 years, because it is in the Constitution. And even if we wanted to earn them time, because the Constitution gives them a limit of 3 years, then we must first of all fight the handle of trying to amend the Constitution to provide them with more time. And looking at the period remaining between now and 4th of March, it appears completely impossible, because to bring a constitutional amendment bill, you require at least 90 days before it comes to
so that will be
the
2
floor.
months after its term has already expired.
Yeah, precisely. That is what we are saying. And because the drafters of the Constitution and the Parliament in its wisdom knew that probably for reasons beyond the site of the Transitional Authority, they may not be in a position to transfer, fortunately they have transferred the functions, but remembering that Parliament could foresee a situation where they may not have completed their work, then through the Intergovernmental Relations Act Section 12, they said then this committee can proceed and finish with the work that is not done. So to me, I think it is not possible to extend this
because the problem was caused by Parliament don't talk about whether possibilities are not there. This is a problem which ends up with you and your colleagues in Parliament. So you go and sort it out, and for us Kenyans, the rest of us, we shall watch you. You are the cause of the problem. So you cannot extend, give people more jobs for the problem that has been caused by Parliament.
Clarify a couple of issues.
Yeah, but would you do so answering this, if you would?
Yeah.
First, why has it taken the Senate this long, knowing that there's a constitutional deadline, knowing that there's going to be 90 days for, the reading of the bills twice, to actually come to the place where it's deliberating on, a legal mechanism to extend TA's term? Can the Senate act retroactively, I suppose?
It's lethargy.
Was it lethargy?
Political lethargy.
Oh, dear.
No, it's not political lethargy. Anyway,
but if you would answer that.
Yes. I think from from October last year, we've been talking about. That's when TA actually presented formally to both institutions, both houses, that they are not able to complete their work, and they want us to consider. So what we asked for is, then can you carry out an assessment of how much you have done and how much is pending, so that we can critically analyze that. They did this, I think, around November, December. We had a meeting with them. And
they only did this as late as October.
They were looking for jobs.
No, I mean, it's been talked about for a long time, but the thing is, we didn't feel it was necessary if they completed this. If they had been given the money in last July and they did this audit and this work was done, there was no need. We wouldn't have extended. But now that this bit of work is pending, and by the way, they moved pretty fast. So let me just come to this critical issue, two critical issues, the legal aspect. Legal aspect, I don't want us to bother about so much, because we looked at the constitutionality. We think there's a way around the constitution itself to really address that issue. So that may
what
not
way
be,
would that be?
We will. There have been the thoughts of setting up, putting it as a new, the new entity kind of whatever. But there's a way in which that can be addressed. But let me deal with this issue of, do we actually need it?
When you're talking about do we need it, could you say what difference it would have with this intergovernmental
there's a big
mechanism? What would the difference
this institution, let me tell you, all those institutions that were set up in the Constitution, they were independent institutions, and the reason why the independence is critical is because we are dealing with two levels of government. So we wanted that independent institution because we are transferring functions from one government to another one. One government that is reluctant, for obvious reasons, to another.
And you can't trust national government to dispense.
So now if you say that work will be done by a department within a ministry of national...
You should answer this question before you even go there. I'm not interrupting you, by interrupting you. Why did the Parliament not give it enough money? Is it a case of like the current electoral commission? Then you will say, let us extend it, even we can change the date because they don't have money.
No, it is because of the interference of national government. That's why they couldn't give. National government didn't want these guys breathing down their neck all the time wanting to transfer things. You remember they were stuck on roads. They were stuck on so many functions that the government didn't want to. They got stuck on the electricity, on roads, on many issues. So government wanted to quickly set up this other technical committee within the Ministry of Devolution.
But your point
really
is you need
to shut
an independent arbiter.
So it's only after actually Parliament came out that like last year they got about 200 million. I think the previous year they got about I mean, it's a lean organization, by the way. It's not a huge outfit that is consuming billions of shillings. It really is a very lean organization. But they have such a team that gives that independence, and because of that independence, then it's easy for them to look at this institution, from that. But when you deal with a department, a technical committee within a ministry,
right? Okay.
I mean,
it will be controlled. I get your point, but I want to question one more thing that you have said, which is you have alleged that some of these assets that belong to county councils have now been secretly transferred to individual ownership. First of all, what is the basis of that allegation? Is it a report or certain hard evidence that a Senate committee was provided with, and in which areas would that be?
I don't want to mention the county.
Why?
But I sat in a meeting in a county where we were presented with that report and evidence.
Why do you not want to mention it?
I mean it's just let's not get into the counties. But I think it's not only one county, by the way, where this kind of things happen. During that transition period of the first 4 months or 6 months, when Transitional Authority was still was seconding staff there, and these guys have not got their new team on board, and during that time there was a lot of disappearance of assets, by the way, not just movable assets like vehicles and so forth. I'm talking of properties that were being transferred. And today, as we speak, that is still there, because you have a property that has been registered, or that may not have been registered. And most of the government institutions, including local authorities, including national government, their assets are rarely registered, by the way.
And with this sort of information, what is the Senate doing about it? Sorry, just hold on a second. The Senate has this sort of information.
We have petitions relating to this one. I'm telling you, there are petitions that have been tabled in the Senate on this kind of assets. This is why some of the senators feel that the reason why the Council of Governors, some of the Council of Governors members are opposed to, is because of that demand that they have been making, that we must make an inventory of all the assets and liabilities. No. And you know, that is you find a lot of resistance from some of the Council of Governors members, because these guys have been trying to make an inventory of every asset owned by those governments. That's really the issue. Okay. And they spend quite a deal of time.
From what Mheshimiwa Kero has just said, even the slightest feeling that I had for the Transitional Authority is now redundant and gone.
You are in my camp.
In fact, if that has happened during their time, and we've not heard of anybody that has been taken to court, there is nobody that they have told us they have been able to recover assets that were transferred within that particular property time. And then I believe that there must be a cartel that is whose intention is to steal, to loot public property. And for that reason, we want to stay in office and continue perpetuating
aided and abetted by the Senate.
The honorable member forgets one thing. They are the ones who delayed the entry of TA on the stage. Instead of TA coming on board as required, actually, well before the county governments came. You remember TA came in literally just before the elections. And they had no time to set up institutions. They had no time. Those guys worked day and night to develop institutions, to recruit people, second them to all those counties to take over, you know, from local authorities and hold. It was a massive amount of, and the delay is because National Assembly delayed. At the time there was only National Assembly. I think that you can't blame them.
Fair point, gentlemen. We're out of time. We're out of time, and I suppose in as far as the extension of the term, then we'll just have to see whether Senate finds a way around. Whether you find a way around this within those 2.5 weeks. Highly unlikely unless you're creating a new transitional authority.
Obviously, the National Assembly,
exactly, through the National, through the National Assembly, yes, correct. All right, so we're winding up that conversation, but just one thing before we go. Next week, Thursday, Uganda, our good friends across the border, are going to the elections, and seeing as it's going to be an opinion court day, Prof, I'm sure you have a lot of views. What do you just think very briefly about the Uganda poll?
Okay. I had a different thing, but since you have asked that question.
I have asked that question.
Yeah, the Uganda poll, really, I don't have much. That's a different country, and they will choose the leaders they deserve. And probably they deserve Museveni or something else. What disturbs me about that poll is some Kenyan politicians, especially within the Jubilee area. And yes, some Kenyan politicians within the Jubilee, as even we are talking, I think tomorrow some will be leaving to go and campaign for Museveni, but there have also been some in court also campaigning for the opposition. I think that is terrible for us, because these politicians, we have chosen senators and governors to look after our country. But the bottom line is that Kenya must realize this. The biggest enemy of Kenya outside Kenya is Museveni. The current Musevenization of this region, where the guy does not believe in the rule of law, he doesn't believe in human rights, he believes in blinding, turning his opponents into blind guys because using paper form. If you have this kind of leader around you, and your own leadership goes there, you start trembling. So really, for me, I don't care what happens, but the rest of the republic must watch out that if Museveni wins, he has already Musevenized Rwanda, he has Musevenized Burundi.
You're talking about extension of term limits?
Yes, because we share no value, no political value between Kenya and Uganda as long as Museveni is still the president. So I plead with our politicians, including our president. He has nothing to learn from Museveni. Museveni has a lot to learn from our president and the deputy president. They should keep off that. They are irritating us by doing business with Museveni. Let them vote their person. If they want Museveni to win the elections, they can win the elections, but we know he has stuck on Migingo. He has been moving bigots everywhere in Pokot. And what business are our politicians doing with him? So that election is a disaster for us. We would have wanted somebody else in Kampala. He's not there. So let's keep off. But we must deal with Museveni. That is the biggest enemy we have for our country.
Prof, I thought you had no opinion.
Yes, I have an opinion. This is a terrible man for this region. Do you think any Kenyan? I'm not just being emotional. Do you think there is any Kenyan who would wish that Museveni becomes the president, including these members of parliament?
I don't know.
You don't know. Tell us.
No, don't, please.
Uganda is a friendly nation. And Uganda being a friendly nation, I think it's only important as a neighbor to wish them well in the elections and leave them to handle their own affairs.
Yes.
Because we cannot afford to antagonize our neighbors. So for that matter, I personally,
tomorrow you'll need to borrow salt from your neighbor.
What about the Migingo?
I would just want to.
What about the Migingo?
I would want to just say, let them just stand with
I'll take a middle position. I'll take a middle position. Of course, Uganda is not just a neighbor, but it's our largest trading partner. So I think the outcome of the elections affects the lives of Kenyans because of the business, our trade. The second aspect, and I want to conclude, is about, of course, the nature of the elections there. You would say they are far from being as free as we have in this country. So, of course, I don't think much about the elections.
I think it is fair to say we wish the Ugandans a free,
but they should not spread the Museveniization here.
And peaceful. Paul, I'm going to take a break right now. I don't know what else to say. We'll be back after this.